Police officers who have arrested other police officers. What's the story? Story 1. I was working the night shift when a call came in about a possible DUI. I arrived at the scene and recognized the car immediately. It was the deputy from the next town over. He was slumped over the wheel, reeking of booze. "Hey buddy, let's get you out of the car," I said, trying to keep it casual. He staggered out, barely able to stand. His badge was still clipped to his belt. "Come on, man. Can't you let this one slide?" He slurred. But I couldn't. I had seen too many wrecks caused by drunk drivers. I cuffed him and put him in the back of my car. Back at the station, the look on the captain's face was priceless. "You brought in who?" he asked, incredulous. I explained the situation, and the deputy was booked like anyone else. He tried to pull some strings, but in the end, he lost his job and faced charges like any civilian would. The rest of us learned a lesson that night. No one is above the law, not even us. Story 2. I had been working on a corruption case for months. Tips had been coming in about a detective on our force taking bribes. I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was stacking up. One night, we set up a sting operation. I was hiding in a van with a couple of other officers, listening in on the wire we had placed. Sure enough, we heard the detective negotiating a bribe with a local business owner. When he pocketed the cash, we moved in. "Hands where I can see them," I shouted. He looked at me, stunned. "Are you serious?" he asked. But he knew we were. We arrested him on the spot. It was surreal, arresting someone I had worked with for years. But we had to do it. Corruption can't be tolerated, especially not in our own ranks. The fallout was huge, and morale was low for a while, but it was necessary. We needed to show that we were committed to upholding the law, even if it meant taking down one of our own. Story 3. One weekend, I was off duty and hanging out at a local bar when a fight broke out. I stepped in to break it up and realized one of the guys throwing punches was an off-duty cop from my precinct. I pulled him aside and tried to calm him down, but he was too far gone. "Get your hands off me," he snarled. He was clearly drunk and out of control. I had no choice. I called for backup and arrested him for disorderly conduct. The next day at the station was awkward, to say the least. He tried to apologize, but no use. He faced disciplinary action and had to go through mandatory counseling. It was a tough situation, but it reminded me that the badge doesn't give us the right to act above the law. We're held to a higher standard, and we need to live up to it, both on and off duty. Story 4. Our department had been hearing rumors about a cop selling drugs on the side. At first, we thought it was just idle gossip, but then we started seeing patterns. Small amounts of evidence would go missing, and there were whispers on the street. We set up an undercover operation. One of our guys posed as a buyer and arranged a meet. I was watching from a distance when our suspect showed up. My heart sank when I saw who it was, an officer I had known for years. The deal went down and we moved in. "You're under arrest," I said, my voice shaking. He tried to run, but we caught him. Back at the station, he refused to speak to any of us. The investigation revealed he had been dealing for months. He was charged and eventually convicted. It was a dark time for our department, but it reinforced the importance of integrity. We took an oath to protect and serve, and that means holding ourselves accountable too. Story 5. I got a call one night about a domestic disturbance. When I arrived, I was shocked to see it was the home of a fellow officer. His wife was in tears, and he was shouting, clearly intoxicated. I tried to calm him down, but he became aggressive. "This is my house. You have no right to be here," he yelled. I told him we had a duty to respond, and he needed to come with us. He refused, and things escalated quickly. I had to call for backup. We managed to get him into cuffs and took him to the station. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, arresting a colleague and friend. The department handled it by the book. He was put on leave and had to go through counseling and legal proceedings. The whole situation was a mess, but it showed that we're not immune to the problems we face every day. It was a reminder that help is available, and we need to support each other in seeking it before things get out of hand. Story 6. I was on traffic duty, parked by the side of the road, when a car sped past me at nearly 100 miles per hour in a 55 zone. I flipped on my lights and took off after it. When I finally pulled the driver over, I was shocked to see it was our sergeant. "Hey, what's the rush?" I asked, trying to keep it light. He looked at me, clearly flustered. "Just let me go, okay?" "No need for this," he said. But I couldn't ignore it. I had to call it in and follow procedure. Back at the station, the higher-ups weren't happy, but they knew I did the right thing. The sergeant faced a hefty fine and had to attend a defensive driving course. It was awkward for a while, but eventually things went back to normal. It was a tough lesson in doing the right thing, even when it's uncomfortable. After all, if we don't follow the law ourselves, how can we expect others to? The sergeant took it in stride eventually, even if it meant a few sideways glances at the station for a bit. Story 7. We received a call about a shoplifter caught red-handed at a local grocery store. When I arrived, I was stunned to see it was a young officer from our department. The store manager showed me the surveillance footage, which clearly showed him slipping items into his coat. I pulled him aside. "What were you thinking?" I asked. He mumbled something about financial troubles, but it didn't excuse his actions. I had to arrest him and take him to the station. The fallout was immediate. He was suspended pending an investigation and eventually terminated. It was a sad reminder that personal issues can lead to bad decisions and that our actions have consequences, no matter who we are. It was a difficult situation for everyone involved, especially since he was well-liked and had shown promise in his career. But we all knew that allowing this kind of behavior to slide would only undermine the integrity of the entire force. Story 8. One Friday night, I got called to a bar fight. When I got there, I saw one of our officers in the thick of it, swinging punches and yelling obscenities. He was off duty and clearly drunk. I tried to pull him out of the fray. "Come on, let's go," I said, but he resisted, shoving me away. I had no choice but to call for backup. We managed to separate him from the crowd and cuffed him. Back at the station, he was belligerent, but eventually sobered up and realized the gravity of the situation. He faced disciplinary action and had to go through anger management and alcohol counseling. It was a harsh wake-up call for everyone involved. The officer, once he had cooled down, was deeply remorseful, but the incident left a mark. It reminded us all of the importance of maintaining control, even off-duty, and that our actions have far-reaching consequences. Story 9. There had been rumors about an officer filing false reports to cover up his mistakes. We didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was mounting. We set up an internal investigation, and I was part of the team. We reviewed his reports and compared them to body cam footage and witness statements. It became clear that he was fabricating details to make himself look good. Confronting him was tough. "Why did you do it?" I asked. He tried to deny it at first, but the evidence was overwhelming. We had to arrest him for falsifying records. It was a major scandal, and he was ultimately fired and faced criminal charges. It was a reminder that honesty and integrity are paramount in our line of work. The entire department felt the weight of his actions, and it took a long time to rebuild trust both internally and with the public. The fallout was a sobering lesson in the importance of transparency and accountability. Story 10. We started getting complaints that a certain officer was fixing tickets for friends and family. We launched an investigation and soon discovered it was true. He was voiding tickets and making them disappear from the system. We confronted him with the evidence. "You know this is illegal, right?" I said. He tried to brush it off, saying he was just helping people out. But it was a serious breach of trust. He was arrested and charged with misconduct. The whole department felt the impact. It was a stark reminder that we have to uphold the law fairly and equally, without playing favorites. The incident caused a lot of introspection within the force. We had to reinforce the importance of impartiality and fairness in our duties, ensuring that everyone, regardless of their connections, is held to the same standard. The officer faced serious consequences, and it served as a crucial lesson to the rest of us.